From the time I started my riding and racing, I never addressed my machines as machines. I always addressed them as, she, because they were all part of my life, and they not only gave me glory, the name and the fame, but also they took care of me. And because they've been nice, and then I've not had any problem, I've been able to build my collection. I would say I was a very keen enthusiast from very childhood. So I used to sit on the driver's seat and hold the steering wheel, even though my legs couldn't reach the pedal. And then later, as I grew up, I think probably I was about 10 years old, and I had to sit on my driver's lap, hold the steering wheel, and try and feel the clutch and brakes and try to drive. So this passion of automobile was always there. But it started sort of fructifying when I was, doing my first PU. I was about 14 years old. So that is when I started, getting into bikes and cars and things like that. Initially, I started off rallying and racing. And then only later I got into the vintage and classic cars, in 79, 80. I had a very, very good season, I should say. I have about 72 victories and about 105 placings in all in my racing career. And I also stood as the national champion from 1981 to 84, which I cherish all my life. And it's been a great event. I started rallying with ambassadors, and then later I moved into Fiats, and racing was also, ambassadors and Fiats. And I won both in Sholavaram. I also won in Barakpur in Calcutta, both the GP and the sprint races. So it was a historical year for me in 1984 when I won all these events. I also thought at that point in time, I had sort of won for 3 years, and then I also felt I should hang my gloves when I'm on the top. I didn't want to go struggling down. So I thought I should call it a day and concentrate on my profession, that was surgery. So I did that. Way back in 79, I was in Chennai, and I was driving down for the races. And I saw this beautiful car that passed by me. And then later I asked my friend, "Oh, very nice car." Then he said that this car is up for sale. We got the paper, I looked into it, it belonged to General Mahadevan, who was actually retired general from the Northern Command. And then we tracked him out, and then I went and met him the following day at his house in Red Hills in Madras. And I requested him whether he was planning to sell his car. Then he did agree, yes, he was planning to sell, but the price he offered was pretty shocking. He said he's looking at around 40,000 rupees way back in 79, which was a hell of a lot of money. And then I sat down, chatted with him, and then he offered me a beer and some snacks. I had all that. And finally, after spending nearly about 2 hours, he came down to see me off because he was living on the first floor. Then he came, saw me off, and then I bid goodbye and came. And I knew it was, a little beyond my budget, because I was only a student and I was just getting into rallying and racing. I didn't have that kind of monies. And after that, in the evening, I just called up his house to thank him for the hospitality they had rendered to me. And then his wife said, no, he is not at home. In fact, when he was climbing up the steps, I think he had one too many beers, and he slipped the stairs and he fractured his leg, and he is in the hospital. And I felt very guilty. And then I went and called him at the hospital. I saw him, and he was a very fussy man, and he had to have his meals come in from his house every day, and his wife had to go pick it up, get the food ready and do it. And they did not have any children. And his wife said that usually he doesn't drink, but he just took a liking to you, and then he had one too many beers. And then I requested a friend of mine to lend me a driver. So I left my car there, and I told the driver, and I told the lady, Mrs. Mahadevan, that this car will ferry her till he's in the hospital to pick up food and things like that. And then I came back. After that, in November, I got a telegram saying that, end of November, I got a telegram saying that he passed away. And I could not go for the funeral. But later, I went for the 11-day ceremony. I paid my condolences. Then I got back to Bangalore. Then it was in early 1980. I got a letter. Probably I would say it was one of the shocking letters that I got. It said, please come and collect your car. That means I need to organize the money, what he had asked, because we had not spoken about the car after that, nor we had sort of confirmed on the price. Then I really did not know how to go about, but I need to organize 40,000. I didn't have that kind of money. So I literally begged, borrowed money from all my classmates and friends and everything, put all the money together, and then I drove down to Chennai to pick up the car. So I met Mrs. Madhavan, her name was Kamala. So I met her, and then I said, ma'am, here I've come to take the car. And I said, then she went inside, came with an envelope and the key. She gave me the key and envelope. Then I was trying to hand over the money, and she said, no. General has handed over this car and he's willed it in his will for you. And then I looked at him and said, he's willed it? He said, yeah, he's willed it to you. And then I looked at her, and then she said, if I had a daughter, I would have given her hand in marriage. So I was so touched, and then I said, ma'am, give me some time, I'll come back and then I'll collect it. And this was my first car that I ever got, and that is how my hobby started, with the vintage and classic cars. And that is what sort of made me build my hobby into a passion, and today it's an obsession. While I was working in the hospital, everything was on a slow pace. It's only when I moved out of medicine, I went into hospital management and went into my business, I found little more time where I could, collect cars, restore my cars, and start taking part in a lot more events. And later I became an office bearer, so I started having many more events, so that not only myself, I involved my family also to be part of these events. Earlier, I was the secretary of Karnataka Vintage and Classic Car Club, where I was there literally over 20 years. And we always used to organize these events with a social cause in mind. The social cause could be giving out messages to the general public about keep the city clean, respect girl children, respect senior citizens, and take care of the cancer patients, and don't discriminate AIDS infected patients. So like that, we have done a lot of events, but every event that we did was always connected with a social tag. I used to be, involved with the vintage and classic cars even those days, and I had organized a vintage car rally at the Taj West End, being the start place. The caption was "Bring Beauty Back to Bangalore," and Sabina was working at the Taj, and that's where I met this vintage beauty. This land is about 14.5 acres. My granddad willed me about 5 odd acres, and later during early 90s I bought the rest of the property. And because now it's all part of the city and my cars are also here, so it makes us much more closer to live on the farm with our cars and plants.
I think we just kind of, the whole family grew along with it. So it's, for us it's more of an acquired passion. So I don't think we can compare it to his, but now yes, the girls are also very actively involved in it. And right from the time they were little kids, I used to take them out of rallies. We had a women's team with me and the girls.
I feel really fortunate that I developed a liking for this, and I think a huge credit goes to my mother, because she made sure that Shifa and I were always involved in this. And even in fact my mother is, and she doesn't have a background with cars at all. So once she married him is when she he started collecting and things like that, and it's so nice to see her supportive. So her being supportive and her going for all the rallies made us also be a part of it. And I think because I can't say share his passion, because his passion is completely another level. I mean, it's just insane to see someone, feel so strongly about something and have so much patience to sit. And even when, you see him researching whether he's looking for tiny parts across the world in some flea market, or going through books, or spending like hours and hours on eBay, it's really, it's so hard to explain that one person has such a strong passion that drives them.
My skilled workers are there. Fortunately, I have a very good team, but I do guide them. Yeah. I do guide them time and again. I do guide them what they need to do, because I do a lot of research, and other than that, I also have a library of nearly about 18,000 books, catalogs and manuals. And fortunately now, Rupali, my daughter, is also involved with this car restoration and all. She also helps a lot, with a lot of information to my boys.
Classic Chase is a brand I started about 3 years ago, and the main intention for this brand was to create awareness about vintage and classic cars, so that we can preserve and protect them for the future generations, because it's slowly dying out, with the current generation. And I try to do this with different mediums. So one medium is through automotive illustrations. So I draw the vintage and classic cars and I put them on silk merchandise. So that's silk scarves and pocket squares for classic car clubs. And another thing we do is also give people classic car experiences, where people get to be driven around in a vintage or classic car of their choice on their special days. So, if it's an event, wedding, all sorts of different occasions. So generally when we give the cars out, only our people drive it. So we make sure, because for each of these cars, we literally have to relearn how to drive, because every car has a very different personality and you have to understand it and be very gentle with it. So we don't let others drive it, just because it needs a lot of time, to learn and get used to the car. But we tell people, to be a little sensitive, because these are cars that are 70, 80, 100 years old. So, you can't use them as a taxi, you can't be, rough on them, you can't drive them slow in jams and things like that. So we give people a brief before that, so that they know what to expect, and, they're sensitive and treated with a little respect.
12 वर्सां पयलें अमिताभ बच्चनाच्या एका मुवीक व्हरून गेल्ले पूरगाक थंय गेल्ले तेदळ आमी अमिताभ बच्चन आनी ऐश्वर्या राय आनी विवेक ओबेरॉय हांकां पुरो भेट जाल्ले ते पुरो मस्त म्हळ्यार विसरूंक जायनासलें. आनी एक लागी लागी 18-19 वर्सां पयलें मॅड्रासाक गेल्ले तेदळ आमी शाहरुख खान आनी कमल हासन तशेंच राणी मुखर्जी, हेमा मालिनी, शत्रुघ्न सिन्हा हांकां पुरो भेट जाल्ले ते विसरूंक जायनासलें. आनी रिसंट म्हळ्यार आमी मस्त कन्नड मुवीकांनी पुरो गेले ते दळा आमचे कन्नडाचे कोण फिल्म स्टार्स आसात, सुदीप जावन दी, दर्शन जावन दी, आनी आमचो पुनीत राजकुमार, आनी मेन डायरेक्टर जावन आसले योगराज भट्ट, तशेंच प्रेम, तांकां पुरो भेट जाल्या. तांचे थोडे फावटी आमी म्हळ्यार तांचे वांटू बसल्ले पुरो पळय ते पुरो विसरूंक जायनासलें एक ऑपॉर्च्युनिटी.
I'm working for the Austin Sprite steering head, and I'm making a bush for it, as it is shagging. It is shagging. The shagging shouldn't come there, so we're making a bush for that, and a special component for that particular shagging. And we do a lot of work, any head work or throwing work or whatever work, it has to come there.
आम्ही हांगा येताना हांगा आसल्यो तो सडा 30-35 गाडी आसल्यो, 35 गाडी. पण ताचे उपरांत आमी एक एक गाडी रेडी करून रेस्टोरेशन करून स्टार्ट करून रोडा काडून सुरू केल्या उपरांत ताची क्रेज आणखी चड जाली आमच्या दुनियांची. ताचे उपरांत ताणें आणखी कितें म्हळ्यार थोड्यो बऱ्यो गाडयो हाडल्या, ते थोड्यो मस्त चिन कंडिशन आसल्यो गाडयो हाडून आयला. आनी मागीर ताचे उपरांत आमच्या हातांत दिल्यात आमी ते एक एक रेस्टोरेशन करून. रेस्टोरेशनांचे सांगूंक जायना, थोड्यो गाडयो एका वर्सा भितर जातात, थोड्यो गाडयो लागीं लागीं एक 500 वर्सांनी लागतात कित्याक म्हळ्यार ताचे पार्ट्स आसना ते आमी पार्ट्स सोदून हाडिचे ताच्या प्रमाणे आमी जे लेथ आसा लेथीन आमी लेथीन रेडी करता कारण कितें थोड्या विशय थोड्या गाडयेची काले पार्ट्स कशे येता म्हणून आमकां खबर आसना कितें ओरिजिनलिटी मेंटेन करता त्या खातीर आमी काय करता ताचे विशीं सर्च सोदून आसता सर आमच्या इंडिया जावन इंडिया भायर जावन आमचो आनी सोदून आसता तांचे तावन सोदून आमी मागीर कितें तें सारकें जाल्या उपरांत ते ऑन रोडाक हाडटा ही गाडी आमच्या हाताक येवन लागीं 9 वर्सां 10 वर्सां जावन आयली पूण हे इंजीन आमी स्टार्ट केलां पूण म्हाका थोडे स्पेर पार्ट्साची गरज आसा ते आमी सोदून आसा सोदून आनी 1 वर्सा भितर ही गाडी रोडाक येतली म्हणजे आशा ही गाडी एक्चुअली कलकत्ता पोलिसांनी यूज केल्ली गाडी ही 1927चे मॉडेल 4 सिलिंडर आनी कलकत्ता पोलिसांनी यूज करनासतना ह्या वेहिकलाच्या वयर 2 गुळे फायर केल्ले मार्की आसा तशें ते आमी ते तशेंच उरोवन घातले कित्याक मुखार कोणाकय आमी ताचे विशीं सांगूंक जाय जाल्यार पर्टिक्युलर हेंत वेहिकल म्हूण ना पूण म्हणजे चड लायक करचे कित्याक म्हळ्यार आमी फूल जंक कंडिशनांत रेडी केले 2 वेहिकल आसात स्पेशल वेहिकल एक प्रिवियसली ओन बाय मोतीलाल नेहरू 1928 मॉडेल ते आमच्या हातांत येताना मस्त बॅड कंडिशन आसलें मस्त पार्ट्स आनी करनासले आनी ते सगळ्या कंडिशनान आसले ते ओपन ग्राउंडान आसले ते आमच्या हातांत पूण आमी आमच्या अंकल आनी आमच्या सगळ्या ग्रुपांनी मेळून सुमार एक 3 वर्सां कंटिन्यू तातूंत काम केलें काम करून ताचे उपरांत ती रनिंग हाडली पूण आतां बऱ्या सगळ्या कंडिशनार आसा आनी एक वेहिकल आसा मॉडेल टी मॉडेल 4 ती आमच्या हातांत येताना ती तशी गणयेची ना कित्याक गणी बॅग तातूंत पार्ट्स प्रॉपर नासले ताचे उपरांत ते हर एक पार्ट्स पुरा डिसमेंटल कर ताचे उपरांत प्रत्येक रिफिटींग कर आमी 2003 फोर्डाचे 100 इयर्साचे एक इव्हेंट जालो त्या इव्हेंटाक आमी बाय रोड रनिंग करपाक गेले ते वर्ल्डेस्ट रनिंग फोर्ड इन इंडिया बाय वुडन स्पोर्ट्स
Pebble Beach Concours is one of the most world famous events. It's like Olympics of all the historical cars. And we went in 2012 and we were the first Indians to be selected with 2 cars. So I drove a Delage 1930 Maharaja Holkar's car with my wife and friends, and my elder daughter Rupali and younger Shifali with some friends. They drove the 1907 Locomobile. In the veteran category. So that was an experience by itself, and it was so well organized, and it was so beautiful. In fact, we are planning to be there this year also because they have a Maharaja class. This is the same Delage, and this car literally took about 6 to 7 years to restore, and I had taken this car to Pebble Beach, and then later I took it to Paris in 2017. And the car was visiting Paris after 87 years. It was there at the auto show in 1930 where Maharaja picked up this car, and after 87 years this car was visiting Paris, so it was a historical moment. And then I drove around the main thoroughfares of Paris, and these were all the pictures taken, and this article was published in this magazine, Retrovisseur, and these are all the pictures taken, in fact even backdrop of Eiffel Tower and all the thoroughfares of the Paris. The first ever car that I got was Will by General Mahadevan, and that's how my hobby got kindled. But later, my hobby went on building up and my passion went on building up, and then I bought most of the cars. But in the recent past, there are a couple of cars which were gifted to me for my museum, which were also given to me by my close friends. So there are a couple of bikes and cars which have been given to me, by way of goodwill. They have given it to me. But most of it was bought by me. All the collection that I've been doing over the past literally 40 years, I want to put them all together so that the people in time, generations to come, can see it and enjoy it. So we have planned a museum. It's an auto history evolution center which is coming up in Rajarajeshwari Nagar in Bangalore. on about 16.5-acre property, and this museum will be about 9 lakh square feet built up area, and it is an evolution of auto history. So you will have the first very car, that 1886 patent wagon park, but you will also have a whole lot of things that were there existing, how people used to be dressed and how the whole atmosphere used to be, and things like that, so that even the pathway will be made as per those days. So it's not only an automobile enthusiast who can see the growth of the automobile, how the automobile has evolved over a period of time, but also the other enthusiasts, the other historians also can see how the country has developed over a period of time. So we are looking at literally about 900 exhibits, cars, bikes, not only from our collection but also from friends of ours from all over the country and across the globe, to be putting all these vehicles out there, and so many artifacts and things like that will be all put into the museum. Also, other than all this, we also have a section where the other collectors, could be a stamp collector, could be a coin collector, they could also exhibit, because a lot of people have their exhibits just stuck in the house. But this can also be brought and put into the museum, so that people, a lot of people can see and enjoy the collection and then appreciate what a person has struggled and passionately done it over a period of time. I would always tell all the younger generation, all the enthusiasts, no matter what you want to do in life, no matter what you want to dream, if you want your dream to be a reality, you just need to pursue it. You need to work hard. No matter what problems or what hurdles you get through, you just have to work and work and work. And you need to have that mind that you're going to achieve it. That positive thinking will definitely get across all the hurdles, and you will be somebody who you won't even know what you are going to be.